far as notes go on our content elaborations. So let's take a few quick notes from our article, and let's see if we can place them under religious, political, or cultural beliefs, views, or practices. So the first thing I'd like to talk about from the article, let's go ahead and start where we left off. This is the Royal Society. Becoming the first scientific journal. That is definitely a cultural shift. It's a cultural shift. And a cultural shift in how it's a cultural shift in how we look for new knowledge. Okay, so we can put that under cultural shift on your graphic organizer. Remember, so before the scientific revolution, we didn't go to places like the Royal Society. We went to the church, or we went to ancient texts or ancient philosophers. And then after the scientific revolution, when we figured out that we need to look through reason and discovery to find new truths about the world, that's when we see the proliferation of places like the Royal Society. So that's the first scientific journal. And a scientific journal is like a magazine. Okay, great. Now, let's talk about the importance of the printing press. This was a big one in your text that you read. So, the printing press, it marked the change in a religious shift. And you'll recall that Protestant messaging increased, went up, increased. So that is significant because the Catholic Church even lost more power. So they had already lost power by the scientific revolution, saying, hey, maybe the church isn't right about everything. Now they're losing more power because this Protestant message is going up. It's increasing. So that's a religious shift. Okay, so we talked about the Royal Society and the importance of the printing press. So we talked about religious shift through the printing press. We talked about a cultural shift in the ways that people get information. And we can also talk about a cultural shift from the article about Sir Francis Bacon. And let's say that this is also a cultural practice shift. Okay, so Sir Francis Bacon developed the scientific method, and this is cultural because the scientific method changed the way that people sought information, or the way that people gathered new information. So a culture shift. So let's say that culture shift. So that would also fit right into your graphic organizer, and you can say before the scientific revolution, people looked at ancient texts and to the church to get knowledge about the world around them. And then you can say after the scientific revolution, culture looked to scientists who would do this really scientific practice, this scientific method to find out what's true and what's not. So they would start by doubting everything, and then some things they would find to be true, and some things they would find to be false, and they use a scientific method. And so it was a cultural shift in the way that we get new information. Now, the last thing I want to do in this video lecture is put up this test question to see how all of this is really going to be measured as far as the assessment goes. So that will be next. So what you see now is just like your Venn diagram. You already made this in class, or you got a copy of it in class. And this is exactly what the test question says. It shows you this, and it asks you to solve for x. So you see x here. And solving for x, you'll have to pick from a series of answer choices to see what makes most sense here for after the scientific revolution. So, we haven't talked about divine right and social contract yet, but let me just quickly go over those. The divine right is how kings used to say they were in power. They said, I have the right by God to rule over people. Well, later on, after the scientific revolution, some people, specifically Rousseau, come up with this idea of the social contract. And he says that the government is simply a contract between the people and their rulers. If their rulers break the contract, the people get to get a new government. They get to sign a new contract. So the social contract is that, and we're going to look really close at that later on, but just in a nutshell, just know that having a government is an agreement between us, the people, and the leaders of the country. So that's the social contract. Now, X, we can say, let's talk about X. So let's look at what we have already here. We have religious beliefs. Nature is explained by religion. So I bet you already know that over here, nature is not going to be explained by religion. Nature is going to be explained by reason or investigation. Nature explained by investigation. And that's it. That's the whole video lecture. It's not too bad. It looks like we're going to be at about 17 minutes by the time I get done yapping here. So please use this resource, rewind, go back, make sure you understand completely how to fill out your Venn diagram, your graphic organizer. And if you do, you're going to just kick butt on our essay on Friday. So please, please, please use this resource. This is a very good resource for you. And then later on, when we're going to test, you're going to be able to hop right back on the website, check out this test question again, so you definitely won't miss it. Okay? So thank you so much for taking the time to watch this. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope that it's useful, and we'll see you in class tomorrow.